How many times have you been excited for a character that already exists in the game? Maybe you missed them on their first run, so you're like, hey, I'm gonna pull them on a rerun, or maybe even their second rerun. But then you're eventually hit with someone telling you, don't bother, they're gonna be trashed by this thing, you should just save for XXX meta for the next part of the entire game. That is a statement which can be very true to an extent, but without the right explanation, it can be completely disingenuous. So today I wanted to be talking about it because it seems a lot more prevalent, especially with us approaching 4.x. This did actually exist when it came to 2.x to 3.x, but I mainly want to talk about why that statement can be good if you look at it in a specific way, but also why it can just be a completely completely taken the wrong way and just bad info when someone only tells you that and doesn't elaborate. Watch this video fully. So I'm going to give you, starting off before we get into the reasons, I'm going to give you an example here. Let's say you wanted to pull for, I'm just going to say, Castress in a sense. Maybe you love her as a character, maybe you wanted to use her, but you missed out on her first rerun, maybe you were taking a break. Or not rerun, but first run in 3.2. Maybe you're taking a break, maybe you were busy, maybe you just didn't have enough currency because before that, maybe you wanted My Day, Tribby, maybe after that you wanted a Noxa, so on. And so you decide you're gonna do it, maybe you tell some people you wanna do it, and then you're told like, don't bother, Remembrance is gonna suck, it's so useless, Crisis Air is all useless when 4.x starts, new meta equal old one useless, blah 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 blah. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. That's the example I'm giving to you guys on how this video is going to be and what I'm referring to. But now, first, let's talk about why, to an extent, can be true. So to an extent, it's true because when you look at it in a pure, and I mean pure usage/meta perspective, if we're practically right now, in the situation we are now, about to enter a new X.X meta, or era, not meta, it's of course going to be a thing that happens in literally every single game at some point, where the current stuff, so in this case it would be like Remembrance, Summons, whatever, that is going to be focused on less. There's going to be a new archetype, quote unquote, don't question why I'm holding my mouse. There's going to be a new archetype that's going to be leading into 4.x, it's going to be a new mechanic, and of course that's going to be focused, just like how in 2.x they focused on Acheron Firefly, follow-up attack at some point, debuff, break, whatever. And then in 3.x, they focus on summons, some of the stuff was general that you could use, and it's going to be the same thing for 4.x. Of course, for people who actually summon on the characters that come out in the X.whatever era, they are going to have a better time than people who decide to completely skip through it and decided to just pull from the units they have that are older, because they're the newer unit. That's just how it goes. It happened in 2.x, it happened in 3.x, it's going to happen in 4.x, 5.x, 6.x, 7.x, 8.x, EOS. This is just not a thing that is just exclusive to this game. It happens in every game. I'm actually going to use Genshin for an example here. That game was praised for using older units, which it is. It still lets you use characters like Bennett, Xingqiu, Fischl, whoever, so on. They may be used on other teams, but if you were someone who went into Sumeru and you actually pulled Nahida, you're going to have a better time than someone who didn't. If you went into Fontaine and you pulled Nouvelette Furina, you're going to have a better time than someone who didn't. If you went into Natlin and you pulled Malvika, Shalonen, Salali, whatever, you're going to have a better time than someone who didn't. It's not a foreign thing in gachas, it's going to happen in every game, every new gacha game that comes out, it's just a thing that's going to happen. So for best odds to actually be able to keep up with meta, and I mean full meta wise and not struggle as much as someone else, technically yes, if we're closer to a point, just like how we're in 3.7, the best thing you can do in a case is going to be just waiting and just forgetting about your favorite or whatever, picking up someone in 4.x and then go off that. But now here is the many problems with that statement. Just because we are going into a new patch, and yes, I know Powercreep is a lot of a problem in Starro and for a lot of people, but it still depends on what your investment is, how much you like the character, vertically invested in their team. There's a lot of factors. Just because we go into a new time of the game does not completely invalidate the characters we just had. A lot of my friends, a lot of my viewers, and a lot of people I have seen clear still use characters like Fei Xiao, Acheron to this day. Genuinely, I know people who have skipped a lot of the airs, and I mean like almost all of them. Maybe the only one they picked up was like Cypher or something, and they still can clear. Of course, they're gonna have a harder time clearing than someone who has the full Remembrance team. But just because we went into a new era, that doesn't completely invalidate those characters. A lot of people that tell you like, don't bother investing to like the next meta, the previous one is going to be completely useless as soon as 4.x hits. It's like they think there's a switch. Like the moment we hit 4.0, there's going to be a flip switch and suddenly Cashers can't clear anything ever again. I don't know, that's like the thing they think. They think moment we hit that, Nox is gonna suck, Fion's just gonna be unable to clear, they're gonna think Cashers can't clear anymore. That's just not how it is. The moment we hit 3.x, you could still use Acheron, Fei Xiao, even Firefly, because Break had like a little small period at the time. those characters didn't suddenly become obsolete just because we hit 3.x rather than 2.x. To this day, Acheron and Facial can still clear even at lower costs, like it's possible. Of course, that depends on your investment still when it comes to cost. It depends on what you have summons in, your builds, so on. There's so many variables. Everyone is different. I don't know where people just pick up the fact that they think the moment we hit these new X meta, that the previous one is going to be invalidated. Yes, it's going to be harder because they're not going to have buffs tailored to them. They're going to be the same stagnant team for a little while, and they're not going to get as much focus as the brand new shiny characters who are released. You know, the characters that get released have better buffs for them because that's how marketing works. So of course they're going to have a better time. Another thing to consider is how strong these characters we got in 3.x are. With how strong they are, I can guarantee a full remembrance team with decent investment is probably, and you can quote me on this, but I'm probably gonna say, gonna be able to clear endgame throughout the entirety of 4.x. That's what I personally think. You might think differently, of course, but I think that remembrance team is going to be able to clear out through the entirety of 4.x. Maybe not like how it is right now, where they're fully focused and everything's made for them, where they're going to completely zero cycle every form of content, low AV clear, all that stuff. Maybe not to that extent. Maybe it will be to that extent. I don't know. We'll see. But those teams, they're going to be able to clear. If they're able to clear so well now, when they stop getting shielded, it's going to just slowly be a decline. It's not going to be like up here and then down here. That's not how it usually goes. If Acheron can still clear to this day, if Facial can still clear to this day, I'm sure Finon and especially Castris are going to be fine. And another thing to consider. Yes, a new era is going to be focusing on the new archetype more, but that doesn't mean a character is going to be able to not buff the previous characters. When Tribi released, it wasn't just the Chrysos heirs who got buffs from her. Like, yes, she is like on like almost every one of their teams, but Tribi could go with Facial, with Acheron, literally 1.x DPS and actually make them look good, because that's how strong she is. There's no telling, maybe we're gonna get another character that does that for the 3.x DPSs, and then those characters can be able to buff the 2.x DPSs. You kind of understand where I'm coming at. Like, a new character can be made for the previous meta. Like, maybe they're not intentionally doing that, but if they're a universal buffer, they're going to be universally good, which means you can put them on the previous teams. Tribi was a perfect example. Cypher was a perfect example. She very much brought back Facial and Acheron way more. Like, they could still clear with their respective characters. Acheron with Xiaochu could still do fine. Facial with Topaz, March, Moze, they still could do fine. But Cypher made them even better. That's another thing I don't understand, is why do people completely overlook that? It is a little more annoying with the remembrance because, one, they're HP focused. Well, that's really the only reason, to be honest. We might not get another remembrance character on the team, but there could be a unit that could open more variety in that team, which can maybe help you change around some stuff. Like, that team is really set in stone kind of already with Cyrene, Evernight, Castris, and then Hyacine. Maybe there'll be another character that can open another option in the team, so maybe instead on the second half you can run a hyper carry Evernight instead. There are so many possibilities. With every new support, there's a chance that a previous character can get buffed. If they create someone who's really good for skill points, like that's like what we're mostly expecting, it's going to be like a skill point-ish meta. If they make someone who's really good at generating skill points, has like attack buffs, maybe some crit and some ult-type breast pen, maybe that's tailored towards a new DPS like Yae Sakura if she ends up being the SP that we expect to be like the whole shield one. But do you know who also loves attack, crit, res pen, and SP? Anaxa fucking Goras. His team with Anaxa and Ceridra consume a lot. Anaxa loves attack beyond belief. Crit rate, crit damage do great on him. Respan does great on him. And even someone like Archer. He loves SP. He loves offensive stats. You get... I hit the pause button. You get where I'm coming at. I don't want to ramble on this more, but the moral of the story on why I think that statement is stupid unless people are elaborating on a specific reason, that just because we're going into a new era, yes, they'll be focused less, but that doesn't mean the previous characters are completely irrelevant. If you really like Castris, and let's say maybe you don't pull her now and you want to pull her in 4.x, maybe during 4.x it's with characters that you don't like, so you decide I want to go for Castris, and maybe you already have the team. It's obviously different if you don't have the units already and you have to build the team. In that case, if you have like none of the team, like you don't have Hyacine, Evernight, Cyrene, or Tribi, and you don't have Castris yourself, if you have to build up the full team during the time of another meta, maybe in that case it could be different, just because at the time of the more shield team, that at a base is going to do better than a Castris team that's like super uninvested in. Maybe again, I don't know, maybe Castris team is still going to be dominant so much in 4.x. I have no doubts that team is going to clear throughout entirety, just like how Acheron and Facial could in 3.x. But yeah, in those cases it would be different. But yeah, that wraps this all up, mainly talking about what the statement. But yeah, that wraps this all up. Mainly talk about first what the statement was, why it can be true to an extent if elaborated on properly on reasons, and then the main reason why it can be completely disingenuous if people don't elaborate on why, because there's so much wrong with that statement. I will not disagree when it comes to like Powercreep statement in this game. Like there's a lot of apparent ones, like how much better Aglia was compared to Acheron, and I do not doubt that there's going to be more cases like that in the 4.x era. But my whole point here is the whole statement that the 3.x characters are completely useless is just so disingenuous. And I'm so tired of people giving that advice just because it ends up being wrong. If you play with it smart, and if you really like that team and you want to invest into that team, depending on how you do it, you can make that team clear nowadays. Even more so if they get a buff in the 4.x meta period, which can definitely happen as it's already happened multiple times. Just look at what happened when Sunday came out to Jingwon. You could still use Jingwon Sunday to clear to this day. That's how crazy stuff can get in this game. But yeah, again, that brings this video to a close, talking about everything I do think. Let me know what you guys think about that whole statement about saving. Like, I get it, it's true to an extent, but people really just throw it out without any bias behind what they're trying to say. They just think the moment the new meta hits, suddenly the old one is just completely forgotten instantly, like a switch. But yeah, it's just been being said so much right now that I just... Why does my camera do that? It's been being said so much nowadays that I just had to actually make a video on it. Hopefully I don't have to do this again when 4.x ends. I probably will, because people do this all the time. There's no amount of stopping it. But again, feel free to comment down below what you do think. If you found this video enjoyable, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all our types of style content. Check the description to join the Discord server and my second Arknights channel, and I'll see you later. Peace out.